Okay, this is problem 4 that's in your homework, and it's about the difference between traditional and variable or contribution margin formats for statements. And what I did was I wanted to show you the numbers in total here so that you could get an idea about what the big differences are, because there's only one real difference. So on the traditional basis, we've got sales. I just used the total numbers right here. That actually don't tie out if you multiply these out. I don't know where they came from, but it doesn't matter. So we've got direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, okay, which is the same on both sides. And here, under the traditional method, remember these will all be product costs. So we're going to deduct the fixed overhead. And we're taking the fixed overhead in full because there is no inventory. Okay, so they say that these are the units produced and sold. So if they produced them and they sold them, then all of the fixed overhead would get attached to units that were produced and sold. Okay, nothing would be in inventory. All right, so what do we have? So we've got 360. So our total product cost is 1120, and our gross margin is 830. Then down here are other operating expenses. Basically selling and admin, and they divide it up a little bit differently here, different categories, and what they mean is this is selling and admin costs, and they say per unit, so I assume that this was variable cost, because it was there per unit. But then direct fixed selling and admin, direct because that means it's traceable to the product line. It's direct because we could take it apart between what's in umbrellas and what's in clothing. Okay, and then allocated fixed in admin, that is here, and that is an allocated cost, all right, that goes to the two product lines, but these are all normal operating expenses. They're not product costs. So everything up here has to do with the product, and everything below the gross margin are normal operating expenses, non-product costs. So we've got operating income of 508. Now on the contribution margin side, we have all product costs up top. So we've got direct materials, labor, variable overhead, and I've also got, or not, did I say product? I meant to say variable costs. Okay, this is according to cost function. So variable costs are here, and then fixed costs are down below. So we've got variable selling and admin also here, and I've got a variable. No, these are. I'm going to call this a variable cost. What's this? Wait a minute. These are total variable costs, not product costs. Okay, so that's variable cost is 840, and we've got a contribution margin then of 110, and then down here, fixed overhead, fixed selling and admin, allocated fixed selling and admin. So these are all fixed costs. Now, notice that the only difference between these two really, well, not really, but in fact, is fixed overhead. Okay, it's going to be deducted in full always on a contribution margin statement, and the theoretical argument is that you've got these costs even if you don't sell anything, and it is not made part of a product cost, so it is not attached to inventory. In the traditional basis, what you look at in normal financial statements, published financial statements, fixed overhead is part of your product cost. Okay? All right, so that's the real difference between the two. The rest is just the numbers are just shuffled around a little bit. Now the question asks you for the product cost per unit and the gross profit per unit for each product line under traditional, and then this one is under, I didn't fix this. This one is under product cost and contribution margin per unit. I'm going to say product contribution margin. Yeah, that's really what it is. So under product cost and gross profit would be under the traditional method would be, these are all of our unit costs, and we've got a fixed overhead per unit here. So per unit, our product cost is 13 and 36. Here's our selling price, and it looks like we're losing money. Okay, we've got gross profit per unit. We're losing on umbrellas and making money on the clothing. Now when we do that under a contribution basis, here's our selling price again, and we only use the variable product costs. So this gives us, we've got direct material, direct labor, variable overhead. Our total variable product cost is $10.50 and $25. Now, in order to get a contribution margin in, we've got to add these variable selling costs, okay? So this is your product contribution margin. Okay, and you'll see it like this, okay? I didn't invent it for this problem. They're really like this. So your product contribution margin here is $150 and $50. Plus variable selling costs gives you the big fat contribution margin, okay? But we broke this apart between product and then the regular contribution margin, okay? And the big difference between the two methods is just fixed overhead. In here, fixed overhead is attached to inventory. On a contribution basis, it is not. It's deducted in full, okay? So that's the difference. This is gross profit, and that's contribution margin. That's A and B. Differences in classification is simply that fixed overhead. Okay, that's the difference right there. Okay. I don't care about the rest of it, okay? You can fiddle around with it. But I hope this helps. I didn't want to make it too long, too. Any other questions on this, let me know, okay?